Thank you for your patience. Take it away.
Okay. So my homework was to name, my task was to name the objectives of the plan. The objectives. So that can I share the screen?
Yep, share screen.
Please.
Okay. Can you see it okay?
Yeah.
Right. So, so we're talking about the Humankind document, and we are following the language that what is it, the mission engineering, or vision engineering process that uses and has shared with other institutions. We're trying to merge those two things so that we follow his process to develop a good plan. So let's talk. Yeah, the homework was easy. I had for the plans section of these, I don't know what to call it, so the agenda. So going back or going into my head, I guess, as the Humankind project is running, there are agendas. You could call them epochs, maybe in Ethereum's or epoch, or in Cardano's parlance, or Ethereum calls them I don't know, the thing that they did recently, the merge and other things, they name those projects, and some of them have actual epoch where as they evolve, they name, it's like software versions. You name the objective of that release, and they work at it, and then they release it. So I imagine that, just as any company or any institution, you operate and you have to adapt to current situations and plan for the future. So we can think of those things as agendas, agenda for the next 10 years, the next 50 years. So you before the agenda, though, you have principles and things that the organization believes in and follows. And those are harder to change, right? So to change that, you need some sort of voting and a special process. But anyway, so the agenda is where you define or you consider the history, what happened in the last agenda, what has happened before. You consider the culture, how has the, or I imagine that you would consider the culture, because a lot of the problems that we have in society is that people don't think about past, and they don't think about current culture. They just, individuals have specific agendas and they follow that. A great example is something that I have been thinking about, and I heard a podcast episode. Who was it? Just today, they were talking about how the United States has lost influence in the world, and one of the reasons is that this country doesn't follow principles. You know, a president has their own agenda and they do things. The next president tries, you know, some bad ones, try to undo what the current president, what the last president did, and they try to do their own thing. So the world doesn't see a consistent version of the United States. And that's why they were telling the U.S. you have to put into law that you're going to follow the climate change, you know, some climate change process to, you know, to address it, so that, you know, you can be part of the conversation. Otherwise, you're not, because you know, we have President Obama. He did some things, and then Trump came and undid that and changed the position. And now Biden comes and tries to come back to the Obama and previous years. So the world doesn't see a consistent country. So for organization to avoid that, each planning phase or each agenda, they have to consider what have we learned, what do we know, and from that, what are our challenges, and then do we need to change our mission? That's why I have this mission in the agenda. Do we, considering what is happening right now, do we have to change our mission? And if that's the case, then that's a whole process, because it's almost like changing your identity, or essentially it is changing your identity. But it's important to do that, otherwise you would become irrelevant. So, and then once if you either you continue the mission, and then continue the mission and the vision, or maybe you have the same mission, but you have to change your vision. And from that, you also have to examine the goals for this, or consider or define the goals for this agenda. Agenda 0, we're gonna develop our principles or codify our principles and tenets, and that could be one goal. Now, in this example, we haven't changed. We talked about last month, like, what are the goals of humankind? So from the vision statement, we identified 4 things: safety, knowledge, improvement, and transcendence. So these would be what I see as the objectives of humankind. Like, instead of being dominated by markets and economies and all that stuff, you think about, okay, we need to be safe. Being safe means, how do we avoid wars? How do we make it so that some dude doesn't go out and slice some little kids and then goes back home and kills his wife and child? This is in the news, you know, past week. Why do people do that? I was thinking, you know, first, we can avoid it, it seems. Like, or, you know, to avoid it, you would have to live in a state like China, I guess. That is everything. The government watches everything that you do, and you're under surveillance. Now, some people feel safe like that, and the Chinese people have made that compromise. Yes, we give the government all the power that they want, but in exchange, we feel safe, and our economy is growing, and all those things. Now, currently, that has kind of not gone that way, but that was the compromise that the Chinese people made with the government. Yes, be authoritarian, that's okay, but you have to guarantee us safety and progress. Okay, so after we define the goals of this agenda, then we think about the strategies. How are we going to implement or attain those goals? And an example is having the safety strategies to strive for security, welfare, health for individuals. The knowledge strategy would be to ensure that people have access to facts and that you don't and that access to be free. That access should be free. Improvement strategy. This is more like in people's minds the practice of how can we improve ourselves, or how can we improve this process that seems broken. You know, that's your normal identify a problem and solve it, but this is more important. Like, we have to think about improvement all the time, not just saying that what are we doing wrong, but even if things are going perfectly, we can still improve them, either to benefit more people, or to be more efficient. You know, you can be effective without being efficient, but if you are doing the right things, maybe you are wasting some resources that you can reevaluate them. So that's the improvement strategy. And then the transcendence we talked about last month. It's more like, what's your legacy? You know, living, instead of just thinking how can I be rich or benefit myself today, just think of your life as a plan to be transcendent, to not just to be remembered, but to actually make some change in humanity that will help it advance. Will have to be more, in my case, humane and efficient. You know, this thing, we should have more scientists. We shouldn't have less. We have more scientists so that we can build, automate all kinds of things, so that people are freed to do more science, or do philosophy, or do other things that would elevate the human condition, not just do your, day in, day out, build stuff that a machine would do more effectively, more efficiently, faster. No, we can actually develop those automated systems and free ourselves to do better things. Okay, so this is finally my homework. So I had this the plans to, so we have the strategies. Now let's create the plans to implement them. So Tom said you have to name your task, and he said that it was about this one, the improvement plan. I forget what I have before. I think I have just objectives, and they were some objectives. I changed the document, so I don't remember what it was. I wish I could see a diff. I guess I could do that, but let's stay with the objective names. And Tom said that the objective of the task is just to name the objective, not to do anything more deep than that, just to name it, so that you have a name to work with. So, and he said that we should do like.
Ernest, did you see that Tom raised his hand?
Oh, that's what that. I'm kind of new about.
It's a patient raising the hand, but I'm ready a long time ago to comment a lot of things, but I did want to give you a chance to round up your presentation. So I'm not insisting on, but I've got comments.
Go ahead. Oh, you want to say something, or should I continue?
If you want to round off your presentation, that's fine, and I'll wait. But I'm indicating that I already have lots of things to discuss with you.
Okay, good. So yeah, so my task was to name the objectives, just name it, and these are the names that I came up with. So we can go through the names, but
Well, that's what that's the major thing I want to discuss with you initially.
okay.
The idea of the name of the thing and the definition of the thing. But again, round off your presentation, you know, and then say, okay, any questions or discussion?
Okay. You can see that I'm using some, you know, let's call it colorful language. This is actually Erlang, like it's basic presentation, which is similar to how we code. You know, when you have in code, you have most languages you have keywords, and depending on what the keyword is, it receives or people can assign it a color, or not. You can assign it could be a color, a type, all kinds of things you can assign to keywords. Normally, people just use color. To make this kind of like automatable, what I did is name objectives is the name of a task, right? And that task will produce objective names. So in a more English-like notation, is the name objectives task produces these objective names. So that's just so that you can understand the capital notation and everything there. But now the actual names in the safety plan, I identified personal tracking, notified community of threat, and this is I was just imagining a woman jogging to a section of a town that she's never been with. So how can she feel? How can we make her feel safe? So we have personal tracking technology. We also have a way to notify the community of her presence, so that if you are volunteer to be a sentry and people trust you, then you can say, "Oh, there's a woman running up here. Let me look out for her. Let me see if I see anything suspicious." Then there's the trigger distress signal, which could be manual or automatic. There's the locate distress point. We have a system to determine where that happened. We have track person in distress. So let's track this person. Maybe she was kidnapped or whatever. So you can locate the point where if she's moving, then you have to track her. And then go to the distress location. That's saying, well, sentries, go to that location and let's call the police and see what's going on. So those are the objectives of the safety plan, and then the other ones are very similar. And that's it. Now we can discuss my homework. Tom, you can take it away.
Okay. Well, first, this is like night and day from your first draft. So you're organizing it and presenting it much better. So congratulations. Let's just say you did your homework well and you passed the test. Okay. Now that's the good news. Now the less good news, if you can go back to your objectives, like safety. There we are. Yeah, there we are. The goals.
Yeah, these
that's fine. Yeah. Okay. Now, okay. Now, my intention by giving you the homework to list those goals was to get started in the process of defining and agreeing on those goals. And as I think you alluded to several times, those are just the names, but they're not a full definition. And you probably know enough about my stuff now that I'm a fanatic on having much fuller definitions. And I'd like, with your permission, I'd like to explore that territory a little bit more. Okay. I emailed to both of you a little booklet I made called Quanteering. And quanteering is taking those words, safety, knowledge, improvement, transcendence, and specifying them in more detail, more clearly, and above all, quantitatively. Okay. Now, here's the thing. Those words, you started defining them orally when you made your presentation, Ernest, and that's fine. And actually, we should write down what you said as what I call an ambition level. You know, that's a high level sentence. You know, what do I mean by safety? And if we don't write them down, we have the following danger. I'm not even sure that when you define them next time we meet, you'll give me exactly the same definition. And I'm not sure we understood you. And I can't go back and easily pick up what was said there. It needs to be in writing, not just orally floating by. So definitions must not be oral, ultimately. They must be in writing. That's a first principle. Otherwise, nobody working together can keep track of these things. Okay, so now the other thing is you've started with your strategies, and that's good, but it is premature in the sense that there's an ironclad rule of logic here. If the objectives you have are ambiguous, that is, they can be interpreted in different ways, then it is too early to propose any strategies for delivering them. Because you have to propose a strategy and say that strategy will deliver exactly the level and type of safety that we described. Now, if it's just safety, and you have one vision and Ernie has another and I have a third one, then you're making an argument for your idea of safety, but you're not making an argument from our shared idea, our agreed idea, because Ernie and I are guaranteed going to have quite different definitions. So long story short, no harm in sketching the strategies as you've done. Keep it there. It's premature to seriously evaluate them, but it's not premature to collect ideas and think about it. But before we go on, if I'm going to guide this process, our first job is to define safety, knowledge, improvement, and transcendence in more detail. And we should get to the point where you, Ernest, agree with the definition, and Ernie and I agree that we at least understand exactly what it is we're all agreeing to. By the way, we might then, with this exact agreement, saying we understand now exactly what you meant with safety. It was quite surprising compared to what we thought you meant, and we disagree that that's a good definition of safety. So then we have to have a discussion and alter the definition until such a point that ideally we three agree. That is our definition. That's a problem we're going to work on as a team, and it cannot be misunderstood. And I'm guessing that we have to work on an example here to bring out that point, so that you say, oh, okay, now I see that safety wasn't good enough, that we have to have a better definition. So with your permission, right now we can squeeze in a reasonable attempt at it. I'd like to take at least one of these and show what we have to do with the goals to make them clear for purpose, so that we can start discussing whether your strategies are good enough to reach the goals.
Okay. I see Ernie raising both hands, so I guess you want to say something. Go ahead.
Go ahead. What was this all about, Ernie? Oh, we can't hear you. That's
You're
true.
muted.
You're muted or something like that. But we hear each other. That's what it was about. It's like I've lost my voice. Well, worst case,
Ernie?
you might have to go out and come back in again or something.
Ernie, you
Okay, Ernie, can you hear us?
do
Okay,
you want to say something?
yeah, he does, but
Oh,
connected audio. No, that's a good
Testing
move.
1, 2, 3.
There you
Testing
go.
1, 2, 3.
Bingo.
Okay, that was very bizarre. Yeah, I guess a couple of terminology questions just to make sure we're talking about the same thing. Because I think Ernest may have followed your instructions at the wrong level. Like when he said
Yes.
define your goals, he defined the word goal rather than defining out his goals. So we may have been like talking past each other a little bit.
No,
Yeah.
I don't think that's the problem, Ernie. I think he's done it right. I mean, it's great that he
Well, he has a
has.
definite. Okay, maybe. I want to
No,
hear.
he's got two things there. He's got a definition of what he means by goal, and that's great.
Fine, but let me actually make a couple. One is that you've been talking objectives and he's been talking about goals. Are we using those words synonymously or are they different things?
Hmm.
I don't know if just to be canonical about how we're using the terminology here.
Yeah. I think that I indeed did the homework I went ahead too much. I thought we were talking about the objectives that.
Could you also collapse your toolbar so I can see a little bit more?
That's right.
Okay.
And then he's got.
Okay, so let's, yeah, but it just, one thing that, just the little toolbar arrow where next to the pencil, if you click that arrow, I think it'll
This
the
one?
menus, yeah, or hide that. The arrow, the little triangle on the right. Can you, just to the
this.
right of that pencil, yeah, if you click that, does that shrink the toolbar at all? Yes, thank
Yeah.
you. Can you go back to the top where it says vision, just so I can, I'm not gonna comment on the content, I just wanna make sure I understand the format. Okay, so the top level, we have a vision. Now, is the second level, should that be goals or objectives, or are they the same thing?
Okay, now I'm intentionally. I think Ernest is doing a good job here. He's picked up these terms more or less as I would recognize it. I have no problem with that. You know, the vision is a sort of a top level, long range thing. That's fine. The goals are specific values or qualities, safety being an example, that we want to make better in the future. Okay, and that's great.
So just so I'm not confused, the
Yeah.
next statement is a description of how to achieve an objective. Is the strategy that's trying to achieve an objective, are those objective the goals in the previous section?
Yes.
Okay, so
And-
can we just pick one word and use that consistently so I can keep track?
So that we can, do we want to stay at this level?
So, right, so the next time we say strategies
Okay.
are how to achieve an objective.
Ernie, I don't think we could, but I don't think it. I think we'll end up playing with words rather than substance.
Let me just ask a very concrete question. Does
Yeah.
this next section, do the strategies there, are they trying to achieve the goals in the
Yes,
previous section?
I hope so.
I want to ask Ernest that.
Yes.
Yes. Could you just then change that word of how to achieve a goal, just so I'm clear then? If that's what you actually mean by strategies?
I see your problem. You've used the word objective down there and goal up there. Yeah, for consistency, I actually.
No, but those are different. I purposely.
Well, they're related. They're roughly the same thing. And
didn't you just say these are how to achieve the stated goals?
A goal, I see a goal as a high level thing, right? It's a high level target to accomplish.
Right.
To accomplish that target, you need something that is more.
Ernest,
yes.
Just to get the monkey off our back here, write instead of objective, write our goals. And then we have consistency.
The blue word objective right there. Keep right there. The blue word objective. Do you see that? at the end of the sentence, there's a word
No,
called
move
objective.
along. To the right.
Is that what you is that the same thing as a goal?
Roughly,
sorry. Yeah.
but you're not
So,
giving me a chance to explain anything,
a goal.
so I can't tell you the answer. Yeah, okay, now, that's gonna, may I explain a little bit? If we go through the next stage, which I'm suggesting, we
Can I
will
ask just
see.
one more question before you start, just to help me
Okay.
get unconfused?
Yeah.
Okay, I see here you have those 4 points. The strive for dissemination. So could you scroll up just a little bit? Those those 4, what you call strategies there, those look to me like definitions of your goals. And I'm not as opposed to what I think of as a strategy.
It's an approach to realize the goal. So what is
okay? So maybe there's some overlap there.
You're right. It looks like that. I have a suggestion that it's too early to discuss what is there because we have not yet defined our goals well enough.
And my argument or my question is rather, could we use what he has under that strategy section as a starting point for our definitions? Because I wonder if they're similar enough.
No. They're two different things. The goals are how good you want to be in the future, and your strategies are how you're going to be so good. They're two different things. They're, what we want and how we're going to get it. Two entirely different things. But it's premature. I repeat, we're wasting our time if we spend time talking about those strategies now. They're good enough for a purpose. You've got a placeholder there. We really have to define the goals better in order to do the work of finding proper strategies for them.
Yeah, we still need to work at the high level.
Ernie, I see your problem. What he's written as strategies are actually processes for reaching the strategy. They are neither goals nor strategy. They're a process, and a process is a kind of strategy. But again, I hesitate to get into that.
That wasn't my point, but I'm not going to fight it if you have.
But I
agree with you
understand
that we need to define our goals. I agree with that.
I understand why you had a problem with strategies, but it's logically premature to discuss that.
Yeah.
That wasn't my point. My point was, I wonder if what Ernest wrote down under strategies might actually be useful to help him formulate what the definitions of his goals are. But if that's not helpful, we can just go straight to defining goals.
Yeah. Well, if it is useful, we'll dive down and he'll dive down. But we have yet to do anything in the direction of definition there. So I suggest we start with one of the 4 and we start define. By the way, there's another meta thing. You know that in my my books, like Competitive Engineering, I have a glossary. And in that glossary, I define goals and objectives. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't see the need to get into that now, but just so you know, there is a difference between what I call an objective in language and what I call a goal. And it is defined in the Competitive Engineering book. So if you look it up, you'll see how I use the words. But that doesn't matter. Right now, it's good enough to have goals up there. And we can talk about the terminology, I would say, after we have defined these things, we will see what is a goal and what is an objective.
Mm-hmm. Now, I agree with that. And so that you guys can understand.
Now, would you like to get my help to dive in and begin to see how to define these things?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, good. Now, ideally, to make it go fast, I would write here. And so can I do that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so, but I have to.
Where's the link again?
Oh,
Can you resend
yeah,
it or paste it into the Zoom?
it's in the one of the emails that I sent you, Tom.
Yeah, it is. I can look it up.
But if
this
you can just
moment.
paste it into the Zoom, because I'm on a different account, so I don't have access to that email.
Right, if you're gonna paste it in, I'll use that, paste it in the chat.
Ernest, are you able to paste it, or are you still
Oh,
looking for? Can you paste the link into the Zoom chat?
Ah. Sorry, let me. Yeah, I need.
I pasted a link that I got from you earlier, and I get humankind.
That doesn't
Although
look
I'm-
right, does it?
There we are. I've got it. I'm into it. Here, I'm
Oh.
going to write XXX and just.
Should we let Tom share? Would that be easier for this round?
Let's see. I don't know how shareable these Google things are.
They're pretty good. Anyway, okay, look, I'm seeing Tom edit, so let's go with it.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's shareable.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to just work on that. Now, let me just do one of these so you get a feeling for where I'm going. By the way, the detailed instructions for what I'm doing are in that booklet I sent you called Quantier. Okay, they're also in almost all of my other books, like Competitive Engineering. Okay. Okay. So now, which one of these four would you like to work on? The most interesting one to work on? Pick one, Ernst.
Let's start with safety.
Okay, fine. Now, I have a little language tradition of a capital letter means a defined term. So this is my tag, safety, right? And I'm okay, and I'm using language now, but type. This is a stakeholder value. Okay, what it is, and now I'm going to write ambition. This is a first definition of safety. Let's see. I'm going to do what Ernie hinted at and suggested here. I'm going to use what you had there. I'm not saying it's the best we can do, but it. Oh dear, what happened? I pasted it. Oh, okay, I pasted it in.
Thank you.
Right. Okay, I need to get back to where I was. Goals, there we are. Okay, fine. I pasted it in. Okay. Now, safety is just the name, and this is reserved. We can't use safety with a capital S anywhere else in any other way. So whenever we refer to safety in our planning, it means this definition. We're going to this is accessing this definition. Now, and the ideal of a language definition, it cannot be misunderstood. Is maybe the simplest way I can put it. Okay. Now, ambition, and by the way, I'm gonna do a little thing here, which is a little arrow, and I'm going to put EB, meaning EB. I'm copying what he wrote, and in fact, what the heck is Now, for many people, this would be good enough, that what we mean by safety is striving for security, welfare, and health of all individuals. But I believe we can define it much better than this by going one more level down. So in a sense, we have 3 levels here. Level 1 is just a name that might mean something to a lot of people, but might be confusing. The
Now,
second level.
Can I
is
stop
you
you just 1 second? Now, instead of just using this one word, could we qualify, could we say safety goal instead of just safety? So that we know that term.
You can, but you know what? I did that here when I said it's a stakeholder value. I could even put stakeholder value objective. I'm trying to type is trying to write down what we think this animal is.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that the name of that thing should include what it is. This is
okay. Now,
goal.
okay. Now, actually, I disagree with your assertion, but I understand why you're making the assertion. But I'm trying to tell you, I can do that. Here, I can write safety goal here, no problem. But I'm actually saying that it's a safety goal down there. That's my type. Okay. But I don't care. To make you happy and to get you off my back, I'm going to write safety goal because it doesn't matter. It doesn't actually add anything that isn't in that type. Okay. But we can do it if you think it makes it clearer. So let's do it and move on.
Okay.
Right. Now, here comes the interesting part. I'm going to write the word scale, which is short for scale of measure. I think you guys might have seen some of this before in our much earlier conversations, but might have disappeared. Now I'm going to just do it. Okay. Now I'm going to draft a scale, and that means I'm not doing it finally. We can have lovely arguments over what this scale should contain until we finally all agree. Now I'm gonna let's see. Okay, individual types. Oh dear. Okay. Which have acceptable okay, and then I'm going to write personal attributes. Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to write. I haven't explained what I've done, but you probably have a feeling for what it is. These things in square brackets are general things that I want to choose more specific subsets of. So but it's easier to do it than to talk about it. So goal for 2030. Okay. I'm going to write individual types. Okay. Okay. Equals. Yeah. Women and acceptable UN standard level. I'm just sort of making this up as I go along. And then personal attributes are equal to, let's just take health. Okay. Now you are looking at an objective, in fact, a stakeholder, where the stakeholder here is women or the United Nations, value, and the value objectives about their personal health, and yep, okay, and UN, okay, okay. Now let's see. There's one. We're getting there, but let me see. Okay, and I'm going to write at least, where's my at least 90%. Okay. Now to illustrate how we use this, I'm going to copy and paste, but I'm going to take men and something other than health. Let's take a welfare. I happen to know that's defined at the UN. Welfare or something. Okay, welfare, and 95%. And I'm just going to take another.
So what do you mean by less than?
Oh, you know what? Thank you.
Bit dystopian there.
Yeah, let's see. Greater. Yeah, I did mean greater than, of course. I don't know.
Previous one as well, please.
Okay. Now, notice what I've done. I've got one objective called safety goal, and at this point, maybe if I can, with you
mean one goal?
Well, here's the thing. This safety objective now has two goals. So the safety objective is a higher level category that can contain any number of goals, 500 different goals, sub goals.
Right.
And
so
these goals.
So we just formally request, Ernest, could we just call these higher level things objectives for consistency? Are you okay with that?
I disagree. Because we can have multiple levels. In my opinion, that having multiple levels of things inside the goals, like if a goal has goals itself, that's where you get confused. That's where you. That's
why I was arguing we should call the top level thing an objective.
Right, I would.
So an objective is sort of a general statement.
That's my
a goal is a precise target.
Yeah, that's
so
my.
Are you okay with that, or do you want to use a different target term for the sub targets?
No, because the title of the section is goals. So the things that are inside of that are goals.
The question is, are you open to the idea of renaming this section objectives? Because the way that he's used to using the word objectives are these high-level verbal statements, and goals are these precise numerical statements.
The reason that I chose those terms is because that is what other people expect. When you read books about organizations and how they talk to each other and other entities, these are the kind of like standard terms that they use. So
okay.
We're not going to have our standard. If you're happy with that, that's fine. Could I suggest, in the interest of simplicity, that we call the sub things their targets, maybe rather than goals? Would that work for you, Tom?
No.
No? Okay.
Okay.
Nobody's giving me a chance to get a word in edgewise here. Notice that.
Okay.
Let me have the floor for 60
Go
seconds. Ahead. Look, people do, as you say, Ernest, use the word goal in the same sense as I'm using it as objective. It's true. And in fact, every word here is used in 100 different ways by 100 different people, right? So, and you have a right to use words that are your taste if you want to. I'm not going to stop you. I wouldn't want anybody to stop me using the words the way I want. But what I've done I'm giving you a stable platform. I've got this thing called Planguage, which has a glossary, which has these things defined, right? And it works very well. Now, if we as a small team could say, Tom, since you're on the team, and to make you happy, we will adopt Planguage terminology. Okay. Now, if you say anything else, we will spend our effort quibbling about words, and it's not the words that matter, it's the concepts that matter. That's why my glossary is called a concept glossary. So this, taste about words is really not productive. It just,
Well,
So I would suggest that you guys, unless you have a very good reason for not doing it, say, Tom, you're on our team. You've written whole books about what goals and objectives are.
Mhm.
So let's adopt your terminology until further notice. Okay. Now you don't have to do that, but it gets messy, and we waste a lot of time if you don't. And we're not going to make any great progress if we move to other terms.
Okay. Now, let me present my opinion.
Yeah.
My goal is for other people to understand this. I want other people to, oh, I see what you're saying. Easy. I don't want them to have to like, oh, you have to learn about language and this is what we're doing. Anybody with certain education should be able to read this document and understand what we're talking about. For those people, terms and language is important. As a writer of developer documentation, you have to be exact. You wouldn't use ambiguous terms like safety. For example, you have type safety in programming. You have type safety, and then you have other types of safety. And you can't just do, oh, I'm just going to use safety, and you have to like, figure out which type of safety I'm talking. There's type safety. There's memory safety.
Ernest, I think we might be talking past each other. I don't think we're disagreeing with what you're saying. And I think if you think we are, then we're confused somewhere. I think the point that I think Tom is making, I agree we need to be clear, but the way to be clear is we use a consistent set of terminology and we have a glossary that defines those terms. And what Tom is proposing is not to change your content, not to make it less specific or whatever, but just to normalize the terminology, like using the terms objective and goal the way that he's used to using them, that he's defined based on his research and whatever. And if we do that, then we can focus our conversation on the specific areas of disagreement and not get caught up in the larger terminology. I think that was what we're asking for. And I don't think he's asking for something that's different than what you want. It may be just difficult until you see it. The other point is that I actually do have a 2 o'clock meeting in 5 minutes. So we need to get some sort of wrap up and next steps of who's going to do what to keep us moving forward.
Okay, so
I put my hand up.
Go ahead.
My turn. Or are we going to play by some rules here?
Go ahead.
Okay. Look, Ernie, I agree with you completely. You said it right. I don't want to get to a battle of terminology because it's a waste of time. I've been through that. I've done that. I've got my terminology, right? We're here to learn to plan, better humane society. And that doesn't start with arguing about terminology, which is really arbitrary. I mean, anybody can use any word any way they want, and they do, okay? So I want to focus on humane society, Ernest, and defining what that is. Now, if you have I appreciate your idea, you want a simple definition, but there's something called too simple, okay? If you just have what you have in the ambition level, you are not communicating how good you want, health to be for women in 2030. But I have captured that in that language statement, in that goal. So what you have is your ambition level is simple, and most people are not trained well enough to do anything but nod at it and saying, oh yeah, I agree with that. But it's bullshit. It is ambiguous bullshit. It's not helping us define what we mean by humankind. Okay. Now, by the way, one thing is the planners plan in detail with a clear mind. The fact that you need to present some of this stuff in simple-minded terms to the masses, yeah, we know that. Okay. So we can then go back and we can just throw them the word safety or throw them the ambition. But we have to have a clear idea of what we really want at some level of planning. The professional planners can't plan using bullshit, ambiguous words all the way through. We will get nowhere, and humankind will not happen.
I think you're both saying the same thing. Are we actually disagreeing about anything at this point? Ernest?
Well, I don't know if I have presented my position clearly enough. But maybe that's something we can discuss.
So here's, can I make a proposal, because we have like 100 seconds left. I think it would be useful if Tom is open for it and if Ernest is open to this. I think Ernest has done a lot of really hard work putting this idea into a coherent way that makes sense to him. Tom has an enormous amount of experience in making really rigorous formal statements using his language context. I at least think it would be interesting if Tom was up for it, for him to like take this data, maybe in a separate document, like kind of go through it and normalize it, like go from sort of, what I thought was a very rigorous way that Ernest presented it, but like pull that into the actual standard language terminology that Tom is familiar with and using it, not changing your content, but changing the structure to fit into that format so we can see what that looks like. And then Ernest and I can look at it and say, okay, that makes sense. And no, that's still confusing, or no, that's the wrong term. But I think if he does it all together, that would actually help us move forward and might help him think more clearly.
Okay.
Does that sound reasonable to either of you?
Yeah, I think the clarification is that this is not for outside consumption. So I wanted to be
well, not yet. Apart from our thousands of YouTube viewers.
Just for us three, actually.
Okay. You cannot give ambiguous bullshit for outside consumption. It won't work. And we have to understand and agree on that.
We all agreed on that, but the question is for internal consumption. And I literally have to leave in 30 seconds. Tom, are you okay with the idea of normalizing it, understanding it's for the three of us to review next time?
I'm not sure exactly what I'm saying yes to, but I'm willing to continue cooperating and dialoguing about this.
Okay, maybe I'll put a proposal in the chat thread and you can see if it makes sense to you.
Send an email.
All right. Okay. All right.